Hey everybody, welcome back to the Quest for the Bestest. It's the podcast from Backlot Banter where we review every single Palme d'Or winner in random order. The Cannes Festival, we love it, we love it. Today we're talking about the 1997 winner, directed by Shohei Imamura, friend of the show, director of the film The Ballad of Narayama. This movie, however, is titled The Eel, Unagi in Japanese. If you go to a sushi restaurant, you can actually usually order this.
Delicious unagi roll.
This is true. And this movie, might I say a little bit, some deliciousness in it as well. I'm excited to hear
some
sure.
some other words I would use to describe this one as well.
And isn't that why we're here? I'm excited to hear from you guys.
To use words to describe a movie.
Exactly. What you thought about it, what it means, anything at all. That's what we're up to here on the quest for the bestest. But I'll remind you of what we talked about last time before we get into this Imamura flick, because we did the Michael Moore documentary a fair couple of weeks back. We had to take a bit of a hiatus, but we're all settled now. We're ready to get back into it, and I'm excited to be back in the swing of things. But just to say the number out loud, Fahrenheit 9/11, 7.7 on our points rating scale, with the placement of spot number 31 on the list. Today is the 69th episode, and so there will be...
the
Eel, Happy. 69. Here we go. Let's be ready for it. I don't got a lot else. Fahrenheit 9/11, quite a fun episode. I recommend watching it. And I
sort of the white whale of this version of Quest for a long time. And I was going to ask you guys what you felt the next white whale is, but I feel like the answer is kind of obvious.
It's Pulp Fiction.
It's Pulp Fiction. Yeah.
It's the Eel. Oh.
We could see it today. As we will indeed.
What did you say?
What?
I said it was the eel.
We found it again.
You know, Tanner, to me, spending time with my friends is my white whale.
Whoa, I don't agree.
Luckily, I have many white whales, and I love life.
You just find them all over the place.
You
got to ponder.
Yeah, they're super common at Lou.
Abram, will you do us a great big favor and collate and provide to us a comment or two or three from the our lovely
Let's link
fans.
And build.
Let's link and build.
I would certainly like to link and build with all of you, and with our dear friend at Abby Keg. Shout out Abby, real life friend as well.
True. IRL.
On the April 2026 box office episode, Abby wrote, "Great video, gang. When will we be posting a video on the Eel? I'm attempting to re-enter my cinephile era and patiently await your thoughts on this. In regard to this video, I did watch the drama in April with my sister and thought it was a time. Live, laugh, love, heart emoji." By the way, of course, if you're watching Quest, we do all kinds of different programming. You want to hear Tanner and Tucker talk about the box office, go check that out. But Abby followed up this comment after Tucker replied saying that we were on a hiatus because
That was me.
That was me.
Oh my God, it's Tanner.
Tucker replies to most comments. Mostly people, especially mostly on videos that we have that blow up because we have controversial opinions on a movie. and Tucker gets in the comments and I wouldn't say you don't battle with the commenters, but you sort of you prod them a little bit.
You give them the time of day.
I do. It's passive aggressive positivity.
Because, certainly, I didn't want to use that term. I'm glad that you did.
Well,
because I'm being nice to them. Like
you are.
Well, the words are nice. The intent.
You are.
Well,
because Tucker.
I mean, overly nice.
Yeah, because I know you, I know exactly the tone that you are using in your verbiage, in your responses to them. Anyway,
I had to scroll through a lot of that on the Michael review to get to the actual comment of the day, but I had to read out Abby's. Shout out Abby. Thank you. Abby replied to Tanner saying, "Congratulations to Abram on the move." Thank you, Abby. Very excited. Please do tell him that if he doesn't read my comment in your returning video, I'll put a curse on the channel for 100 years. Looking forward to more videos. That's an incredibly serious curse. So I had to make sure that we avoided that. That being said,
you almost didn't know about it though. Like, because before this, Tanner was like, "You have to read this," and you didn't know about it. So we could have been cursed. It would have been your fault.
Tanner's doing all kinds of due diligence, keeping Abby updated.
Keeping the curses.
You guys don't know it, but this is like the 6th century-long curse that I've avoided this year.
Oh my God.
Really?
Oh my god! I'll tell you, the global community has not avoided many curses this year. I'll say.
I can only do so much. I can only do so much.
The one comment I wanted to read as well, in addition to this, very briefly, on Fahrenheit 9/11, comes from our good friend, fifth member of the show, John Tor 11, who says,
Hey.
yeah, just like Timo, I find it hard to watch this without getting furious, especially when it seems that history is repeating itself time and time again. It's been like this forever. The core problem, which you touched upon, is where changes need to be made, and only Americans can do that. And talking about, quote, tax week and the need for making changes, it seems that in the US, tax week is a little bit of hard work. Meanwhile, in other civilized countries, it takes a few seconds. You go online, identify yourself, and it's done. Tax season is far in the rearview mirror now. We don't have to worry about that again until the 1st of April next year.
Mhm.
But
Yes.
John Tor, I'll just tell you that I probably lose a year off of my life every time taxes come around. And I pay
You lose
guy
a
to do
year
them for
every
me.
year?
Holy shit.
He's rapidly
That's a
decreasing in lifespan.
1 year
That's
per
true.
year.
So I'm gonna die around 50.
Yeah, yeah.
You're gonna
But-
die in a certain amount of years because
Yeah,
every
it-
year.
Hey, but I'll say a little bit presumptive of you if you think that all else equal, you would have made it to 100. But
Yeah, but I'm drinking these Fairlifes every day. Not only does it give me
Oh,
protein,
sure.
it's
There
giving me
you go.
microplastics that's transforming me into a toy that can withstand any
right.
conditions.
that's right. You're You're gonna be non-biodegradable.
One of
True.
the smallest plastics is the little thing they have around the top where you go,
You go,
that's a really small plastic.
Suck that one down.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
every once in a while, there's a macroplastic in the bottom of one of these.
It's
that-
kind of
that
like
you
it's
swallow.
like
You go-
omakase, but for plastics. The chef brings you
Whoa.
variations of many different courses. Of...
Jesus Christ.
Speaking of deliciousness that you like to eat,
Eel.
Does anyone even eat an eel in this movie? I don't think they do.
no, it's like a bad.
No, they
killing
talk about
eels
it.
is like a bad thing in this movie.
True.
But Tanner, I'm sure you have a lot more info on what
Oh,
happens,
yes.
what is discussed, what is digressed, and what is left out. What's the plot of Unagi, the film?
Sure. In The Eel, our central character is Takuro Yamashita, as portrayed by legendary Japanese actor Koji Yakusho. He is a sort of workaday Japanese businessman who one day, randomly, seemingly without a lot of explanation until the end of the film, finds a note that informs him that his wife is cheating on him. While he goes on his nightly fishing trips after he gets home from work, his wife, another man comes over and sleeps with his wife. And so he confirms this one evening, or that very evening, sees his wife, in bed with another man. He comes in, he stabs that guy who lives, but then also in quite a gruesome manner kills his wife. He then immediately turns himself in and goes to prison for 8 years. He's released after 8 years on good behavior, and tries to ingratiate back into society by opening up a abandoned reopening an abandoned barbershop in this rural Japanese town, and he meets a assortment of comical and colorful townsfolk and characters who sort of help him get back into the swing of things socially and personally. He also meets most notably, he meets a young woman named Kiko. I think
Mhm.
is that what
Keiko.
we're gonna say? Kiko.
We'll have our own version. It'll be fun.
Keiko is
It's a little
probably the
game.
most accurate because it's Keiko.
Keiko is what I was-
Sure. She is a woman who he thinks he finds her body, but she was, she had tried to kill herself by overdosing on sleeping pills or painkillers or something of that nature. He saves her, sort of in a roundabout fashion, and she feels ingratiated to him and starts working at this barbershop, and then, events spiral from there. Some drama involving her personal life as well. We'll talk about all that in due time, but that's the plot of the movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Every time I don't plan who I'm going to ask first about their thoughts, and this time is no different. And so I'm just going to bounce it right back to Tanner. What did you think about this movie?
I quite like this one. Obviously, I'm a huge fan, or not a huge. I'm a big fan of a few years ago when we opened up the show and talked about the Ballad of Narayama. I quite like that movie. It's lived well in my memory. So I was excited to get to another Imamura film, a filmmaker who I'm not super familiar with outside of that one film that we reviewed here. And I really like The Eel. I think Koji Yakusho, as I mentioned, legendary actor, loved him in this. Sort of has this removed, stoic sort of film presence. that I think works really well for the character, because ultimately I find that The Eel is a film that is really interrogating the personal politics of like forgiveness and forgiving yourself and being like vindicated or washed of sin, I suppose, in the eyes of the public, in the eyes of your community most specifically. I think it's really interesting in that fashion. Obviously, the people around him are far more ready to forgive Takuro than he is to forgive himself. And I think there's a lot of interesting stuff here. Obviously, like Ballad of Narayama, there's also some really interesting surrealistic sort of punctuation that pops up every so often in The Eel that I found really filmically interesting. But love the performances. I think it's quite odd, it's quite brutal and quite honest in a lot of ways. I'm a fan of The Eel.
Abram, you're up next. What did you think?
Yeah, I echo most of what Tanner said. So I won't really belabor
I'm
the
2 for
point
2 on
there.
what I was predicting you guys would have thought of this. So let's keep going. Come on. Am I gonna be? I don't actually. I never know what Tucker's gonna say, so I'm gonna be right anyway. Anyway, that
They
he
don't
comes
call
down.
me the wild card of Quest for nothing.
I think where I split from Tanner a little bit is that I think that this film gets too plot involved by the end, and I find myself losing interest as Keiko's storyline kind of comes more to the fore, and I think is just less interesting than what we have going on with Yamashita. Nonetheless, I something that I really love beyond what Tanner mentioned is just how eccentric the cast of characters are. We have this sort of wannabe yakuza. We have this guy who's trying to make contact with UFOs, and so we have these very lovable characters that I think kind of disarm and inoculate you from the real spiritual weight of the film. And I think we're so interestingly positioned with Yamashita because he is a detestable person for what he's done. And I think the arc of forgiving him as an audience member as he's working to understand how forgiveness manifests in himself and in the people around him is very interesting. I think I just found myself I found my interest in it waning by the end as we become more concerned with this money and this position that Kiko is in, that just doesn't move me as much.
Yeah.
Tucker, your thoughts?
Yeah, not a huge amount to say on top of what the guys have already said. I just found this movie to be so interestingly paced. You're sort of lulled into the sense of rhythm that it has of waking up and working at the shop and having people come in and every once in a while punctuated by sort of a stressor moment. But I found that a very satisfying loop, and this movie I think offers quite a bit of intrigue into where we are and what the characters are like and things that it doles out very slowly over the course of the film. And I found that to be satisfying. I think that I the where I will agree and disagree with specifically what Abram said is this sort of plot heavy element that comes to the end comes up near the end of when we actually start learning about Keiko's life is both I think an excellent layer to the themes of the film and the way that our characters come to relate our pair of protagonists and the struggles that they've gone through in life. I'm like, okay, I'm now starting to see why they mirror each other, why they connect so well. That definitely is a boon to the film. But also, I think that it needed more time with that. I think that I needed to find that out earlier to care enough and to be able to put together these pieces of who her mother is and who the ex-boyfriend lover, she's a vice president of a company. Like, you can't just throw these things in there. What are you talking about? Like, this seems really important to just bring up half-heartedly in the last 30 minutes. But that is a small chunk of the film ultimately, and otherwise it's just an interesting little character drama. And for a film with as striking and violent an opening as it has, it's a surprisingly like relaxed summertime of a movie, right? Like it's like, small town, fix up the shop, give some haircuts, go fishing. Like this is the Jesus, I'm gonna do a fucking deep pull here. This is the Boku no Natsuyasumi of crime films. And
I thought this while I was watching.
Which one is a Japanese exclusive.
Would it be brief to ask either of you to explain that?
It is a Japanese series of PlayStation video games released only in Japan, where you play as this young boy going and living out his summer and doing little tasks and meeting people as the clock advances through the months.
Sure.
Yeah.
He doesn't brutally murder anybody in the game.
Oh,
As a sidebar.
Well, you didn't play the third one.
No noise.
Snooze fest to me.
Is that all, Tucker?
Timo?
I'm basically, yeah.
We'll dive into more in detail.
How can I top that, Timo?
How can you top that? I don't know. I echo a lot of your statements. I found myself pretty charmed by this film. I think my expectations for it were a lot lower than the reality of watching it. It's this murder right at the beginning of the movie is shocking. Yes. It's like, I know it's coming because it's in the plot description on all the services that like, this is how we start it. And so those first couple of minutes where it hasn't happened yet, I mean, it really got me. It had that like heart pounding thriller sense to it, which is an emotion that I don't always get in movies, and not always movies are even trying to get that emotion out of me. But this time I really got it, and that was exciting. And then the remainder of it is, I find like the things that you guys brought up, I find interesting. The characters are sort of our melodrama. The themes of forgiveness. I think that like law and morality are themes that pop up a bunch in this as well. But the thing that I really resonated with, that really grabbed out and attached to my brain, was like the pastoral quality of the film. Yes, this is set in 1996, but it could be set in 1956, 1966. It could be any year from 56 onward of those 10, every 10 years. And just the like kind of low down, simple life quality to it was really something that I love to like drink in and enjoy. You guys know I love a slice of life film, and I also love a Japanese slice of life film because they do it very well and like get very deep into like the mundanity of life. And yet this life is very unmundane, the aspects of being a survivor of Japanese prison, and the consciousness that Yamashita has to deal with, what he thinks of himself, the confidence that he has in himself, the all these different kind of self-reflexiveness ideas that the movie's playing with. And so I do have some sort of I would call them half-hearted critiques, more like pointed questions about the movie. I don't know how much they really change my actual like experience, but I am wondering what the position of the film is on like gender relations, sort of. There's a little bit of an aspect to this film that is a bit fantastical in the male vision, male gazy sense, in my view.
Certainly.
He does murder. He does get away with it after serving his time, and he does get the perfect wife in the end. Like, I think that's worth investigating, even if I don't think that that's maybe like the main thrust of what the movie's trying to say. It's the after thrust for sure.
There are questionable sexual politics in the eel, especially regarding and relating to certain correlations that characters draw between men, women, and then male eels and female eels, and like the breeding patterns of said eels and everything. There are connections drawn that are thematic, I think, broadly and philosophically, but also if you maybe apply a hair or a percentage more realism to them, you're like, what are the politics of what's going on?
What are we up to here? But by and large, that is actually washed over by the pastoral. I love a guy who goes fishing. I love a guy who's I'm going fishing every week all night long. So I think this is.
If only there was a train in this movie.
If only, then it would be 10
True,
out of 10.
Not a lot of trains.
No, very little train.
Mostly
action.
Bikes and cars
and a
boats.
little boat action too. Yeah. But Tucker, what kind of topic area? General. Should we start wide and zoom in close? Should we start close and go wide? What do you think we should do here? What kind of question do you have for us to ponder first up here with Unagi, the eel?
I think that this movie as a crime film, and why this film's sort of a rural pastoral quality to it brings a very, very unique layer to the themes and topic of crime that we very rarely see in films. There's one small moment that I took from the very chaotic last 20 minutes of this movie that really stuck out to me. And it's when, everyone's fighting, shit's flying everywhere, there's punches and there's people breaking things. And
this knockdown, drag out like a cartoon dust cloud of a fight.
Barbershop brawl.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they're like, go get the cops, go get the cops. And the guy runs and get the cops. And the cop shows up on a bike and he just kind of stands there.
He's like,
and he's like overwhelmed by it because, I mean, I would be too. There's like 20 people in this tiny shop and there's a lot of things going on. And it's hard to tell who's doing what to who for what reason at that moment. Can't imagine being that guy. But what that sort of brought up to me is the idea that this film, as a crime film, is more about the interpersonal dynamic of someone being a criminal rather than the legal or like broader social structure elements of someone being a criminal. And the reason why that kind of jumps to my mind is like, this is a very tight community. I think it's actually important that we don't really get a sense of how large this community is, what the sort of downtown area of it is, like where do the other people live? It's very vague, right? We see a couple of homes, but seeing a police officer show up in any other crime film that, this would be a guy with flashing a badge, with putting a gun there, like taking charge of the situation. But he's a minute town cop that shows up and he's overwhelmed by this stuff. And it's like, he knows most of the people in that room. He knows why they do what like troubles they have going on in their life. There's this sort of this quality of crime as an element in this film, in the criminal acts or immoral acts people commit are more about like, how do you feel about this person interpersonally, right? You know them day by day. You know where they work. You know all this stuff. There's very few people for these things to impact. And so when someone assaults or someone gets drunk or someone breaks something, I feel like there's this interesting social quality this movie has of like, because I know people, the people around me so well, even when they commit immoral acts, that's like, I can learn to forgive them or I can help them out or things like that. It's got this very small town vibe where things aren't blown out of proportion. And I think inserting this character that doesn't come from he is a big city guy because like working in like going on like a train, like a business and stuff. But
I think the key thing, sorry to cut you off, Tucker, is that he's isolated at the beginning of the movie especially, but also for a good chunk, after he gets out of prison. But he is thrust into a community where people are very much not isolated, where it is a very interconnected, supportive kind of community. That is quite interesting. I totally agree that, I mean, especially from an American perspective, it was just sort of quaint seeing like the Japanese prison system, and this guy gets 10 years like for murder, and they're like, good behavior, let him out on 8. So that was interesting to me. And then there's a bit of like deprogramming from like the marching around the prison that gets dropped fairly quickly, but like is a note that we see him sort of hit a couple of times as he's getting started out here. But no, the communal aspect and the sort of immediate forgiveness that he is afforded by these townsfolk. Basically, as soon as they learn about what he's done, which is sometimes like a thing that they're like, in a scene, they'll be like, oh yeah, I learned about that like weeks ago, and it's fine by me, is not something that is super interrogated by those people as characters. They are just sort of avatars for this flow of forgiveness that is coming out, coming out of them, coming out of everybody, and like sort of drifting towards Takuro, not Yamashita, right? That's his full name.
Yes, Takuro.
Takuro. And he is very sort of apprehensive and shuts off those connections almost immediately for a lot of the movie. Because he himself is obviously not able to internalize that or feel that for himself, and which makes him an interesting sort of POV character for the movie. It makes everyone feel very odd and not aloof, but like surreal
laissez-faire.
People. Like you're not real people. You real people don't act this way. They certainly wouldn't act this way towards someone like me, someone with my history, someone with my background. It gives the whole film that sort of quaint oddness that flows through every character interaction, where he's like, why are you being so nice to me right now? I don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really interesting point because there's I think, a different version of this story where the reveal of his history is something that drives a greater wedge between him and the people that he builds up these relationships with. But that's not really the case. We have this character of the garbage man who is trying
Yeah.
to um, expose this history of his. Um, but I don't even quite want to get into that right now. I think
Sure.
more what's interesting to me is a very strong creative choice that I think lends to film a lot of these qualities you guys are talking about, which is the fact that other than a single scene of him marching in prison, we completely ellipse his
Yes, I think
incarceration.
this is a
Yes.
very important point. Keep going.
And so the film has these two very discrete components. One is this very short introductory sequence, which is intensely graphic, not only in the image of this woman who has been brutalized and murdered, but even just in the way that blood sprays and covers him and the wall and the camera lens.
Yes.
So we have this intense violence that we carry with us throughout the film. We go to prison and we ellipse that whole time.
Mhm.
And then we come into this more pastoral section of the film, which is the overwhelming majority of the film. It's probably 2 hours of the 2 hours and 15 minutes of the movie.
We watched the director's cut, by the way, which
Yeah.
appears to be like the only version of this movie that's now in circulation, though is not the version that would have won the Palme d'Or, I don't think.
That's all right. Best we can do.
We were watching on OK.ru via Rare Film, so rarefilm.com, great resource for stuff like this.
We do our best. And so I think that for me as a viewer and for him as a character, the effect of this structure is that underpinning all of these character relationships that are developing is this knowledge of this intense violence being committed. And then there is none of this feeling of catharsis of having served the time, because the time served, the effect of that on Yamashita is not shown to the audience.
Yeah.
But
I think
if
it's even
may,
before that,
but
though.
Tucker, if I may, there is a character a little bit that we are a character who doesn't speak so much that we're forgetting here. The titular character of the movie, right?
Of
The
course.
eel that Yamashita raises in prison and is gifted as he leaves prison and then takes with him into his new life. Seemingly, he has this very strange relationship with the fish. He talks to the fish. He imagines the fish is talking back, and the film gives to us at times. This is some of the things that I think is formally what I find most interesting about the movie is the selective interiority. And this is something that
yes.
I like to pay attention to throughout Japanese media because it just operates very differently than Western media. You see this in anime a lot where you have, like in this movie, we hear selected thoughts read as voiceover of Yamashita's. We hear conversations between him and the eel, but we don't hear the eel. We don't hear what he imagines the other side is. We only hear him talking. And this is the part of the movie that I can't figure out. I actually can't figure out because part of me, my dumb Westoid behind can't understand like the symbolic value of the eel. I see it as like this this slimy snake-like fish. And I went and saw a documentary earlier this week that was about like this python hunt in Florida.
I've heard that's good.
It was good. I fucking hate snakes, man. And an eel, really damn close. A little close to the snake for comfort.
Why did it have to be eels?
Why'd it have to be eels? And so to bring it back to a more serious point, the eel as this like sounding board reflecting character foil of Yamashita's, the thing that then the payoff is when he goes to the river at the end of the film and he releases it to go back to its mating cycle as he is found his community and finds the perfect wife again, basically. I'm not sure what the movie is completely doing with the eel, but I'm like, this character is central to the understanding of who Yamashita's character is and the arc that he goes on post prison release, which, like we've talked about, I think has a lot to do with forgiveness, self-confidence, these kind of topic areas.
The point that I wanted to reply to with what Abram was talking about, and we'll get back to the eel, but he mentioned that we don't get the catharsis of the time spent, but I think it's even before that. And what makes it such a unique crime movie is that he commits the gruesome action that is brutally shown to us on screen, including nudity, which was available on YouTube. I was very surprised. Free movie on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I
like,
forgot.
oh,
There's a lot of
Yeah,
sex.
watch this
There's
on
like a lot of
YouTube.
straight sex in this movie on that
that's
is on
stab
YouTube.
and boobs on my YouTube. Whoa.
What the hell?
What the heck? But is that he has an immediate sense of regret and turned himself in. And that is
Mhm.
another element of
Although,
where
but
this
I might push back. Is it regret? I think that this is, well, so unfortunately, I, like many others, was subject to the Twitter auto translating discourse of about a month back with lots of Japanese people. It was just profoundly stupid. But what it really made clear to me is the connection in culture, especially of Japan, of law and morality. That like
Sure.
he's fully aware of the morality of his action. That it is awful and you know there's no way to come back from it, and so the only response culturally is to like go turn yourself in. There's no can I slink away, can I go get away, you know, go hide out, go find, you know, get my bug out bag and go, you know, go somewhere else. Like that's not how you would do something in Japan, and so that links these two ideas.
True, but like also, you know, I've seen other Japanese
Because I
crime
don't
films.
believe
like,
that
people,
he regrets it, actually. I don't believe he regrets it. And I think that's kind of part of the big
No.
thing of the film, that people want him to regret it, but he actually doesn't, because he feels kind of morally justified, or at least he feels circumstantially justified in the actions.
Now that's interesting. I do want to interrogate that a little bit. But Tucker, other Japanese crime films, I agree that you know, it's maybe shouldn't paint with a broad brush. It's like there's not criminals who like run away from their actions in Japan or whatever. Like that is, I'm sure that's not what Timo was saying. But
yes,
yeah.
it's a big country with hundreds of millions of people. Like anything can happen, but yeah.
Yeah, but in the context of this film, there is no traditional crime movie. How am I going to get out of the situation? What if
Right,
I'm discovered? What are my friends going to think of this? Did the guy ran away? Am I going to chase him? Did the old woman who's our landlord hear what was going on? Like, we get none of those touchstones, and it makes the crime feel weightless almost immediately. And I think that the fact that he just gets on his bike, bloody shirt and all. Hey, I did this. Here's the weapon I used. Turns himself in. Bing, bang, boom. Okay, we're moving on from it. That is another part of, I think, what makes this movie's crime element feel very, very vague. Like I would not consider this a violent movie, even though it opens in such a striking way, because the movie almost doesn't. It treats that moment as violent, but it almost doesn't treat the action as violent, because it spends the rest of the movie unpacking that this did happen and he has moved on with his life.
See, I think that's an interesting read, but I just don't really necessarily know if I agree with it. I think that the film is very specific in the violence it depicts for this to be a serious crime that was committed. And we even see the image of her body recur. And I think that one of the interesting dimensions of this film is this idea that soon after he finds Keiko's body and she ends up being okay, he has this comment about how she reminds him of his wife. And so
well, they look pretty dang similar, right? Are they or are they not played by
Style
the
is very
same?
similar.
They're
They're not.
they're not played by
not
the same actress. Okay.
Style is very similar.
Style, they look similar.
And similar mannerisms and habits and actions.
They love making him a lunchbox. Well, I guess we don't know if his wife liked making him lunchbox,
but she does. She does it. Yeah.
And so I would challenge the idea that the violence feels weightless, because it is basically what governs the entirety of the film after that point.
Yeah, I would agree that like it is this cloud that hangs over the whole movie. I'm always thinking back to it.
It's a cloud, but it's not a particularly dark cloud, because he is impacted by it, but he's not.
It's kind of like
he's internally defined by it, but he's not
impacted by
externally defined by it.
Yeah, like Tanner said, a lot of the people in the community are like strangely unfazed by this when they learn. I think specifically like Keiko is not. She learns of it and doesn't really change how she interacts with him, at least at first. And so yeah, that like the cloud is on Yamashita, the community, this like little riverside community that he finds himself a part in, he's kind of his parole officer brings him to there.
Yeah.
Is not
Like this isn't like Twin Peaks where a murder hangs over everything and
Yeah.
everyone's obsessed by it.
True. That's a
Obviously,
fair point.
not as many characters know about what's going on, but then again, when they find out, most of them don't really
I
seem
think
to
it's
care.
I think it's because, and maybe drawing attention to this community thing that like this murder is obfuscated to them. They didn't know this woman. It happened 8 years ago. Like they're
in
like,
another
okay,
town,
sure.
I think, in a different city.
Yeah.
And what they do know is the guy who is a good member of their community and is taking care of this young woman. And
nice and quiet.
He's
and keeps to
low key
himself,
loaded
and he's a barber.
too. He's got the he's got that shmoney to back him up.
Yeah, I just think that the dissonance or the friction that creates doesn't mean that the crime isn't important or isn't heavy. I think it just means that it's manifesting in a way that makes this particular story and the narrative choices it makes very interesting. Because ultimately, his ability to interact with people is still completely defined by that. Because the film is attempting
his relation to himself.
His relation to himself, but also his relationship to a character like Keiko, for whom there's almost this sort of like romantic pursuit, and this that she is trying to do, and this.
I mean, this is like so sweet. This part of the movie is so strange because it actually feels so like wonderful to watch these two together, and yet for me, this cloud is hanging over, and I'm like, bro, Yamashita is freaking out right now because he can't. He's like he thinks he's gonna do it again. That's what I read into his character. He's so worried about this aspect of himself that he like can't. He can't accept it. He can't work past it. He can't. Assuage himself that it's never going to happen again. And so that, leads him to reject Keiko a number of times and reject her advances because she's too similar to this thing that, as he claims at the end of the movie, he loved his wife so much that he couldn't forgive her when he saw this, and killing her was like killing a part of himself. This is so he claims,
Yes, I mean that is the thing that motivates the entire movie, which sort of informs the the behavior of all these side characters and how the violence at the beginning is treated. Is that like it is at its core about Yamashita's experience and his journey to forgive himself and accept forgiveness from others. And yes, it's interesting to sort of prod and think about like the idea of these townspeople so quickly forgiving him for hearing that he's a murderer or whatever, and it doesn't really color their perspective on him. And you can read that as a surrealistic sort of painting over on Imamura's part to like make a broader point, a cultural thing that like time served, all is forgiven kind of thing on Yamashita's part, or on their perspective on him and him being an ex-con or whatever. Or even a cultural thing from like on like our side of like Americans broadly have a very different view of like ex-cons, I would say. But regardless, it is a very personal journey, and the insights that we get to Timo's earlier point about the selective interiority on Yamashita's and these dreams that he's having are very interesting and very specific in how they are doled out. I do like that. Yes, we never hear the voice of the eel that Yamashita supposedly hears, that he supposedly has conversations with.
That always says what he wants to hear.
Yes, because exactly. And I think that there is this push and pull of that, which is why I disagree with Timo that he doesn't regret it, because I think he does. But like, I think the real question, or at least the moral question to me that is posed by the film was like, okay, yeah, you obviously regret killing your wife. Now what? Like, what is that it? Like, do you just move on from there? Like, yeah, I felt bad about it, and I spent 8 years in prison. Like, there is deeper healing, there is deeper in personal work that needs to be done from there. It is really tough and really existential, and that is the work that the movie is about.
Yeah, it's not. The question isn't, can you forgive someone for this crime? Because the answers that this movie poses is yes.
Yeah,
and it's like
it's
actually
more,
not that hard for a lot of
once you've forgiven, how does this impact things, or does it still impact things?
Well, and I think that's again why the lack of us seeing the prison time is important, because to clarify what I meant earlier by like catharsis, I think that's more on the side of the audience member, because this film is, I don't think, making a like militant case for like the reformation of a person through prison. If
Mhm.
anything, it sort of shows how he becomes ill-adjusted as a result of his time
Oh,
spent
yes, I
there.
do think that
Mhm.
this film has
To be fair, I think he behaves kind of similarly in the scene preceding him going to prison as well. He has a similar sort of
Yeah.
like alienation and remove from everything going on around him.
Sure, I more mean in this sort of physical manifestation of this
the marching.
trained behavior of marching,
Sure,
or the,
yeah,
in
yeah,
the
yeah.
way that he kind of
Again,
fought.
something that doesn't really come up after like two instances about 10, 15 minutes into the movie.
And
But
it's like my knowing of what goes on in a my limited little bit of like what happens in a Japanese prison is like, ooh, I kind of like, oh, I kind of wanted to get into that because apparently it's
mm,
crazy. Apparently that shit's nasty. Like, oh,
yeah,
Well, and I think that's an important point, because I think the character of the garbage man is very critical, because
yes.
we come to learn that they both committed similar crimes. This garbage
Mhm.
man also killed his wife or his mother-in-law or something. He
I
killed
think he killed. I think he did double homicide. I think he
double
killed both.
homicide.
Yeah.
And so we know that
Jesus
they served time together, and then they're both trying to reintegrate into the world. And
Yes.
we have this character who is at once extremely vile and frustrated because of his inability to find like salvation through repentance. He has become a devout follower of Buddhism. He
Mhm.
has devoted himself to praying over and for the people he murdered.
He
Uh,
like writes sutras or whatever every single night or something. Yeah.
and it doesn't work. And part of this confrontation he has with Yamashita, that I think is one of the most interesting scenes in the film, is that he is angry at what Yamashita has been able to achieve after getting out of
Yes.
prison, that he cannot. And he's found himself instead going down this extremely uh dark path, where we see him attempt to rape Keiko, and then
Mhm.
mentions that he is going to rape somebody else and go back to prison. And so we see that we don't know what
And he's also
happened.
drunk a lot when we see him.
Yeah.
We don't
a
know what
lot.
happened to.
Like every time we see
Yeah.
him.
So we don't know what happened to them in prison, but what we do know is that there is something interior about what they do next that
Mm.
defines them, and we see two people moving in extremely different directions. And interestingly, it's maybe the character that outwardly projects less empathy or outwardly projects less remorse that is doing much better, which I think is an interesting dimension
Sure.
to
Yeah,
this.
I think there's also an angle to
Well,
that though, is that as well, that like the garbage man, is there an argument that he is like is he like performatively going through the motions that societally and culturally they're like you have to repent in these ways and do these things and become devoutly theological to this religion or whatever and do these things according to this religion, and that way you will feel, and that way you'll cleanse your soul or whatever. And he's like, this shit isn't working for me. And I'm angry that this shit isn't working for me. I'm a fucking shitty garbage man that still has all these bad thoughts, and I hate myself, and I'm gonna commit more crimes. And because I feel like, he kind of alludes to the fact that like he feels like he should be back in prison, and that he's pissed off at Yamashita. That he's like, why do you get this community around you? Why do you get this? Why do you get this beautiful woman that wants to be around you all the time? And you're shutting all this off. I yearn for this and I can't get it, even though I'm doing all the things that I've been told I'm supposed to do. You're doing none of that and getting all the reward.
because I think what the movie is commenting on there is that
Yeah.
Yamashita has done all of that in his own mind already. Is that the performance of forgiveness on the outside, or repentance, I guess,
Yeah.
on the outside is not as important as performing the repentance on the inside,
Mhm.
which is what
Certainly.
I think we saw Yamashita do immediately when he went
Mm.
to go report his action. Like that moment, the process of him starting to think about his actions and understanding that there are consequences for them happened the moment that he got on that bike and went down the hill. And I think that also goes to show that the difference between those two characters is that the different kind of people they were even before they committed the crime actually seemingly from the two characters presented with here hasn't actually changed that much from despite their actions, despite the time they spent in prison. The guy who I can't remember the garbage man's name, but the garbage man, you know, double homicide. I think that if we had watched his version of the movie, we probably would have seen him tried to hide the evidence, and we probably would have
Sure,
seen him
it's certainly
try to run
possible.
away. And then he goes through prison. I would wager to assume that he had a much more aggressive time in prison, probably gotten more fights. But what we see, or at least
Certainly didn't have a pet eel.
didn't have a pet eel, probably wasn't loved by the guards enough to go, oh, this is your pet, and be taken out by the monk character, the guy who takes care of the
the
shrine,
reverend, his
uh,
parole officer.
yeah, the parole officer who's like really caring for him. I think that those two
Sets him
characters
up
are presented
well.
differently.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. But yeah, no, I think that it's a more commentary on who the, and I don't know if I'm just coming up with this now. I don't know if you
Yeah.
agree or disagree, and I haven't thought through it, but like it's the crime doesn't define you; it's who you are otherwise. And the difference between them is more about who they are as people and their sort of root value. Even though their crimes are similar, and frankly, the amount of time they spent in prison and things are similar, the prison journey is similar. The people that they are before is also then who they become afterward, despite the crime.
Sure. Sure. I think it's to that point, Tucker. The thing I just wanted to throw out is that like that note of who you are before, who you are at your core is that maybe perhaps that is more the journey that Yamashita has to go on in this movie, is fixing something that existed in his soul, in his mind before he killed his wife. It's what
Sure.
informs
Yeah.
why he did that, which is that he doesn't really believe in forgiveness, personally or for himself. Because what is it? When he's sort of
Whoa.
pressed by that other fisherman character,
That's
he says like,
his
I
answer.
I couldn't forgive her. So it goes. It's a two-way street in his mind. That like,
Sure.
I killed her because I couldn't forgive her, and now I am sort of,
He's
assigning
maybe a
myself
little bit of a
this-
sociopath.
yeah, I am assigning myself this life of solitude that I try, but other people around me won't let me, because I don't believe I should be forgiven either. I just don't believe in that as a concept, as a sort of like core value of his.
And it leads to him being cold and dickish to the people who want to make
Yeah.
his life better around him, which is kind of what the middle part of the movie is about.
There are a couple of scenes where like it feels like the screenwriter is looking directly to the viewer, like that exchange, or when he's talking to his UFO friend who's like, you
Mhm.
talk to the eel because you don't like talking to people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is again, if we wanted to get to the EO, that was my thing. Is that like both the alien character for exactly that scene is a real key to that whole thing. Is like the eel is like a very inhuman thing that he's able to relate to. It's they look for inhuman sort of avenues of personality, or people that creatures, I suppose, that they hope to connect with, because they can't do that with people. It's just spoken out loud, obviously, but it's kind of like the explanation of that for me.
Mhm.
I mean, he doesn't. I sort of took his as he's releasing the eel. It's pretty clear, right, that he is seeing himself as the eel.
Sure.
And we should in
Yes.
some way read the film
Yeah.
through that lens. And
Yeah.
he has in some way completed an emotional journey by releasing the eel.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think
Then the
this
eel turns into a screaming guy in the water with fireworks. That's crazy.
I thought the screaming guy in the water. Well, that's the garbage man that he hallucinates or whatever. But I thought he was before he released the eel.
No, it was after.
Was it
I think it
after?
was
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, because that kind of fades to black.
That's true. That's a fair point. But
And then the movie keeps going for like 10 minutes afterwards, too.
Yeah, I
sure.
do like that guy in a sort of like direct screenwriting fashion. He's like, you made up the letters. You hallucinated the letters. They weren't real because you were jealous or whatever. And then he fades into nothing. It was like, perhaps could have been more graceful with that information, but
well, and I think,
Well, but is that
I like it though. I think it's
is it
interesting.
true?
I know it exactly. Is it true? Is our
Yeah.
is our narrator that has
It's-
otherwise been trustworthy, that we believe
Mhm.
everything he tells us? Oh, well, maybe he's not so trustworthy, right? I like this like seeding of doubt, and I don't believe that we need to come down in conclusively in any way, because
Yeah.
if it's doubtful, it's interesting, and it does make me think. He's reading these things on the train. We see the pictorial version of it, and yet, like, man, don't I know that you could just like make up memories, and you can make
I mean,
the
yeah,
human
it
mind is
certainly-
capable of vast imagination, including gaslighting themselves into murdering other people. It's fully capable of this. And so maybe, but it also could not be. Is that his just guilt? Is that just this self-blame like coming back around? It's been it's just by the time the movie ends, we're approaching 10 years since his crime, since the murder. So it's like, that's a lot of life that you live, and your brain rewrites memories is so I like that inclusion, and I like that it's so heavy-handed because it just throws all subtlety is out the window, and yet the subtlety of what really happens completely remains. We don't know if it's hallucination. Maybe it's real even, even though he fades away, but
Yeah. It's just the neatest explanation to me, because then you question, like, who did write that letter? It's a woman's voice reading the letter at the beginning of the movie. It's like, who wrote this?
The landlady.
I think the idea presented is that maybe he just kind of knew, and he's like coming up with this external validation for why he went back. Or
Well,
that.
that's the hallucination sort of plot, thing that I'm like, it's the only thing that logically makes sense. But like, because in reality, I'm like, who would have written that?
Well, isn't the framing of the letter like, oh, I know your wife and I live in the area, and when you go away on your overnight fishing trip,
it's his landlady, I think.
Over.
Oh, okay.
It's the old landlady.
No, the landlady's like an old lady.
Yeah.
No, but the voice is a young person.
Yeah, I don't know.
Either way,
it's ultimately not that important.
The explicit text of the film is that, oh, I have observed that this is happening whenever you go fishing.
Okay.
But what do we
Actually, the murder never happened.
What?
My new theory.
What? He went to prison for no reason? What?
He turned himself. He put ketchup on his head. He's like, I did it.
I do just also want to underline in that scene the intense, surreal filmic violence of that murder.
Oh my god! Well, can we wind it back just like a couple brief moments beforehand? And we have this he walks up to the house. He's there when he knows this was like a stunning sequence of this movie. I really liked the walk, like the approach through the end of the murder. We drop the soundtrack. We become hyper aware of what he's listening to. We hear the cars, we hear the world, we hear the moths up on the streetlight. We go look at the streetlight. It turns red, and then he goes and murders, and then we see him. Well, then we see this the voyeurism in this movie, man, is quite intense, right? We have this prolonged sex scene where he's just watching, and then he
quite similar to a lot of the sex scenes we see in Ballad of Narayama as well. Just sweaty and just animalistic,
and breathy, expressive. Yeah. I got my roommates who were upstairs were like, "What the hell kind of movie are you watching?" And I had to yell up, "Unagi!" It's the eel.
I was like, oh, what if my brother comes out? I was just like, oh, that's just kind of like porn.
Yeah, it's like if you walked in during a scene or two of this one. But then the murder, is so I was jaw dropped, fucking really shocked by it, because you know what's happening. You see him get the knife, and it's like, oh shit, and then it starts, and you're like, oh, that was kind of gruesome, that was kind of nasty, and then it just turns the dial up to 11, and the blood is going everywhere, and the screaming, and just it's very well done, very effective, very arresting. I actually have pretty much come around. When I was younger, like a teen and whatnot, I did not like it when movies made my heart pound like crazy. I freaked out from that. And this time I was like, yeah, I like it when I'm like, doop, 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 really feeling the emotion of the film and feeling like the stress and the tension. And then it resolves, right? He turns himself in, and it's kind of dark. Like the scene of him riding the bicycle is darkly comedic, of which other parts of this film are kind of funny too, like the barbershop brawl at the end that seems to go on for 10 minutes. I love how it boils down, they stop fighting, and then someone says something and they go right back to it. And that repeats 5 times. Funny, and just kind of the slapstick element of that scene. I don't know, it's a big departure from the violence of the beginning of the film. You kind of have these two big splashy moments on either end.
I think we should talk about Keiko as a presence as a character in the film. Sort of becomes like a second lead if you want to really push it that far, because we do get her life, her backstory a little bit. Basically in the third act, which I know that some of you guys criticized a little bit about the movie, so I want to give you time to air that out as well. But she sort of we see her as presumably a dead body, and then I forget exactly how this goes down. He comes back into town and he's like, what does he say to like tip people off to that she's
The
out there?
the Yakuza light guy, the gangster dude is like trying to do his extortion racket on him, and Yamashita deftly sidesteps that and just is like,
Uh
something's going on over here. Come with me, guys. You got to
huh.
come check
Sure.
this out. And they all go look at it, and then it gets called in or whatever to the
Yeah,
cops.
yeah. But you know, she has this massive amount of deference to him after that happens. To the point where she's like, "I'm gonna start working here," and he's like, "Okay, I guess I'll have to let you work here, I suppose." And then you know, she's trying to like court him or like have him court her by making him these lunch boxes and constantly trying to hang around him, and she brightens up basically the whole atmosphere of this barbershop and makes it like a fun place where people are coming in. There's kids running around. Like she's a net positive on his life that she's sort of like exhibit A of like him not allowing this light, this forgiveness into his life, where continually sort of pushes away her advances towards this. I really like the sequence where he tells her what happened, why he was in prison, that he killed his wife. I love how that's sort of framed and shot and everything. They're sort of on this like outside, you know, that he's on this like steel staircase with this harsh backlighting and the grass like swishing back and forth in the wind. Love that sequence. But then we also get again, like in the last half hour of the movie, this flashback. I'm gonna see if I can get all the detail here correct.
It's not
This
super clear.
flashback to her sleeping with this guy. His name is Aiji, I believe.
Dojima.
Yes. Who?
No, Dojima.
Dojima.
Right?
IG Dojima
Yes,
is
yes.
his name.
Aiji
yes.
Dojima.
Yes, because I was like, oh, it's like the Dragon of Dojima from the Yakuza series. Yes.
She is sleeping with him and although she refuses to say so or refuses to admit it to him especially, she is presumably pregnant with his child, and
Yeah, she is.
he also has like a massive amount of debt to this like mini yakuza sort of group in the town.
He owes someone something.
Exactly, he owes someone something. And so and then what, so I'm just trying to get all the detail right of what happens
So
from
then
there.
he's like,
She
you
runs-
gotta
she, like,
go
runs
work
runs
for
out.
somebody else. You gotta to pay off the debt.
Yeah, he's like, you have to be this crime boss's mistress basically to pay off my debts, which is at which point
No. She says that she had that proposed to her, but she hadn't taken it, and that, as far as I know, never happened.
Sure, but I think
Mhm.
at some point, because of all of this is all like background, she tries to kill herself out in this like rural area. At which point she is, you know, saved, and she's like, she basically wants to start a new life with Yamashita here, until Aiji sort of comes back into her life, and he's like, "You're pregnant with my child. You were like on the hook for all this money that I owe now." And she, yeah, to I think Tucker mentioned this in the opening, is like, she's like the vice president of some company, and with her mom who's like in a mental hospital. There's a lot of texture here
There's a
that
lot of, like,
maybe
a lot of
doesn't
stuff.
get all.
And again, I think I proposed this at the beginning. I'm glad that this exists because I think that up to that point, my biggest critique of the movie would have been, I don't know enough about her. She's a pleasant character. She's like, you know, she's beautiful. She's like livening up this place. Her suicide attempt is interesting as a character note, but it wasn't enough for me. I was like, oh, you know, just like fluffy, lightly
Yeah.
romantic Japanese woman. But then we get, I think, a little too much too quickly to where I'm like, okay, I think this is interesting because it shows that she has this life that she's building for herself as a very meek and polite and helpful woman who's who's kind of in the debt of this guy who saved her life, is her trying to completely redefine herself
Yes.
and leave behind a very intense and she has a ton of responsibility being a vice president of a company and having a mother that she has to take care of, and a lot of money that she and debts and subterfuge and sleeping with a married man. Like, I think that chaos, and maybe now that I think about it, this might be the intent of presenting this chaos of what her life was so quickly that you're overwhelmed by it, and it maybe in some way intended to then be like, okay, whoa, that's so much. Holy shit! Of course she wanted to get away from this. Of
Hmm.
course she wanted to start a new life, and the not that it justifies her suicide attempt, but like all this craziness and this weight and this responsibility was on her shoulders, and that was her out. And then justifying that new life that she builds for herself. It's a lot of texture to give a character who, up to that point, I could have just described as very close to one note. But on the other end, it's like, no, like she found a new identity as the way that Yamashita is, right? The
Hmm.
two of them, no one else in the small town knows about her backstory. They're all surprised when they learn about the money and the pregnancy
Hmm.
and all these men rushing in. And so she is able to find Yamashita and find someone who doesn't know about her past. She doesn't know about his past, and no one around them knows about their past. And so I think that there is a very interesting interplay here where I'm like, for my taste and really connecting to this character, I think I would have wanted to know that a little bit earlier,
That's
sit
fair.
with that a little bit,
Hmm.
explore the sort of what does it mean that she was a vice president of a company? What does it mean that her mother has a mental condition of some kind that she's worried she'd inherit? Like, there's a lot of very interesting character points there. The movie just goes bing bang boom, here you go, and it's great stuff, but it's just too fast. It's presented too fast.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, I'm very glad that it's in there because
I like that it's
I'm
deepening on the character.
Mm.
Like it makes it makes Keiko a deeper character. But I also don't know what it really like means slash adds to the thematic value of the film. Like
Sure.
it's not really a
Yeah.
foil for Yamashita's character. It's not kind of this inverse of what he represents in his past life. It is just this
if
kind
it was
of
an
like
inverse, she would have been a murder victim.
It's also all strictly circumstantial. It doesn't tell us more about her as a person.
Mhm.
It's all burdens that she has to other people. She a job that seemingly she has because of her husband, who is the president of this company, and we never see her
No,
really
I think her
have.
mother.
It's her
I think
mother, I
might have
Yeah,
been.
it's like her
Mother's-
mother's
yeah.
money, but her mother is like mentally unwell, and
Yeah.
so can't afford. And then
She's not married.
That's what brings
She is married.
Aiji in.
No,
Mhm.
no. The guy the Dojima is married to someone else
Yeah.
that he's trying to get a divorce from.
To be with Keiko.
She's the mistress in that situation.
Mm.
See,
Mhm.
I just don't see none of on all of this. I think all of this speaks to the film's perhaps not very progressive or particularly complex understanding
Yeah.
of the female character, because
Yeah.
ultimately she exists entirely in contrast to other people and entirely in as an object of their storylines and
And
the
of like
ultimate
male desire.
the jeopardy
Mhm.
that she ends up in is that she is pregnant with somebody's child.
Yes.
And then that is resolved by Yamashita pretending to be the father to get her out of that situation. She does not really. Yes, she incites this panic by going and withdrawing this money. But what we know about her is that she has an obligation to a mother. She has an obligation, or she has this issue where this man that she slept with, she's carrying his child. She is trying to woo Yamashita. But who is she and what does she want internally? I don't think that that's clear, and I think that that's
yeah.
disappointing.
I agree, and it's funny. I think that's the inverse, in some way, a foil to Yamashita, who we know a lot about his internal thoughts on himself and his situation. We know very little about what his life was like and
Yes.
who his wife was and what their relationship was like. We if we'd gotten this sort of like what his story, in my opinion, is kind of lacking, is a little bit more of that context of what his life is like before he goes through all of this. But then it's totally the opposite for Keiko.
Yeah. Which I will say this, and I'll see if I can tie these connections so we can maybe talk a little bit about the broader gender politics of this movie before we wrap up. Is that I think the film works. I think the film works because like we just get that brief intro to Yamashita at the beginning. Like I think his storyline is very strong because of that like brief onboarding and what we sort of hit on about like his inability to conceptualize forgiveness for himself or others.
Mm-hmm.
And that is his arc, is that is what he learns, and I think that is important. It's very brief and punchy at the beginning and really slaps you right in the face with this brutality that proves that point. That is, that he sort of he talks about later about, I couldn't forgive her, to the point of Yamashita and Kaiko, and what points, or what sort of the resolution of their relationship is. I think does point to some retrograde
Mhm.
sexual politics here
Can I
that
can I
effective.
offer a little
Yes.
phrasing? The way I was thinking about this is I wrote in my notebook. Well, first I'll hit my thing about this movie is that I can't believe you can keep 30 million yen in a book this big. That seems like a lot of
Little
yen
bank
to fit
book.
in something very small. But
Uh-huh.
the kind of I was early on, I kind of picked up this idea of trad versus prog. You got your tradition versus your progression, right? I hate to put it like this,
Uh-huh.
but you know what? I actually find it kind of useful. The
Okay.
barber as like an institution was where I began to get
Sure.
into this.
Okay, I dig
Is
this. I dig this.
the barber is a traditional kind of thing. At least
Mhm.
this is how I was picking up on it. You know, it is kind of like the therapist for men. Like they go there and talk, and he asks,
Yes.
and yet Yamashita is a asocial fella. He and a murderer too. So you have like this
Uh-huh.
very complex barber character because it's like he's got the blade right on your throat,
Right,
and
right,
he's a
right.
murderer. Do you trust him? Right. The ideas of how the goals that he is it maybe he's not searching for, but the film is pushing him towards are very traditional. And the way that like the role of the woman in the relationship, the role of the
Yes.
man, this is all very traditional. And I feel like the film diverges into a progressive track for a little bit and then goes right back to being like, well, no, but how it is how it's good, and where we want to go back to that.
There's a
And
and we want to bring
and
some
it's like
debate
all in gender
tactics.
relations, you know?
Uh-huh. If we want to bring some debate tactics into it, there is sort of a literal appeal to nature argument that is brought about by the fisherman, where he's like, men and women, we're just like animals. We're just like these eels. The women go off and they bring
These
they,
crazy
they
women.
they mate, and then they bring their babies back. They bring these eggs back for the men back in their home waters to like raise or whatever. The men are raising these strange children, and that's just how it works. And that's what Yamashita says at the end. He's like, but it's what he says to the eel. I wrote it down here. Um, he compares himself to the eel. He's caring for an anonymous child, like, and I also drew the connection, like the townspeople are also like that. They cared for him as like this anonymous drifter who comes into town. And the quote I wrote down is, it's sort of like the resolution of Yamashita's entire thing. He's like, those who are born should be cared for. Like that is the final conclusion that he comes to, regarding like his role as the father of this child that is not his, but he's going to adopt once he gets out of prison again. By the way, he's it's also like the thing
But yeah,
again where I
this
was
is my
going when I
shit
was.
about the law and the morality. We have to go back to prison at the end of the movie because they are inseparable. We cannot separate what is legal from what is
Sure,
moral, and
yes.
they go back and forth and influence each other. He's got to go back to prison because he slashed the guy in the face. He assaulted. He did a crime. Like
Uh-huh.
and we saw it. Everybody saw it. Like that. It's almost
uh,
it's like the Hays Code, but in the 90s.
where I was going with Yamashita and Kaiko was
The Hays Code,
the.
but it's spelled Heis.
Sure, sure. Um,
Little
the
Japanese.
where I was going
Little language
was
humor for
that
you.
the that Yamashita effectively does give Kaiko this new life. The life that she wanted, the fresh start that she wanted. Like that is sort of like his final restitution for what he has done, and for killing his wife, is giving this woman new life effectively.
Yeah, with
And
like
to it,
especially with the saving of the suicide. That's how I
exactly.
basically.
There's
And to that end,
well,
I just
there's
wanted to
also yeah. Go ahead, Tanner.
I just want to make a quick observation, something that occurred to me that I've been wanting to try and say. It's a little bit like a western to me now that I think about it. That like this anonymous drifter with the sordid past comes into town, and there's a woman who needs saving, and there's a bad guy, and there's a criminal syndicate that needs to be shut down, and like he is apprehensive to do anything about it. He just wants to keep his head down and live his life, but effectively he does have to get involved and like ultimately like underline and like reinforce domesticity and like the nuclear family and everything like that at the end after he goes to prison, of course.
I mean, is that samurai film also is not
Exactly.
far off.
Very true.
Because obviously
Very
there's a very interrelated relationship between
Yes,
samurai film
yes.
and Western film. But what I was going to tag on to what you said, Tanner, is that there is a really interesting line that Keiko has to Yamashita where she says that her problem in life is that she fell in love with the wrong person.
Hmm.
And I think that there is, to this point about this traditional worldview that we're upholding, it's very clear that what her role is. Even in the business, look at her role in the business. She's here to make the business pretty. She's
Yes.
here to cook him dinner. She's
To
here
be
to do
friendly
this.
to everybody who comes in. Yes.
Yes, and so I think that when you start to add all of this up and you add in the fact that she is functionally in the narrative here as a sort of catalyst for learning something about Yamashita, and then as we learn that her backstory is actually these obligations she has uh, in a familial capacity to different people, it
Hmm.
starts to become very clear, I think, how this film was thinking of that character. And you're totally right, Tanner. There's this interesting moment where she goes to about that final scene with the eels, because there's this moment where she goes to the gynecologist and she learns that she's 4 months pregnant, and that the gynecologist sort of won't co-sign an abortion, so she has to keep the baby. And I just think that it all circles not only this more traditional and to me largely uninteresting value structure, but it also just doesn't make for a good character. And I think that that's ultimately part of my issue with how Keiko is situated beyond just the obvious sort of social or gender politics issue we take with her situation in the storyline. I just don't think it makes her a particularly compelling character. That she's essentially here to live for Yamashita, because even after she gets the money, the way that unfolds in the context of the story is that it becomes an issue for Yamashita. So she has to go and arrive to straighten things out for him, and the film has this culture where it is permissible for her to be thrown around in that barbershop, and nobody's really intervening until it reaches a certain point of excess. So I just
Hmm.
think that yes, it is a very
Yeah, like the first time that
regressive.
Dojima shows up, he like really
Yeah.
puts her hands all over her. He's throwing her around, and Yamashita watches and decides to do nothing, decides not to intervene. Even though, I mean, I'm reading on his face like the damn, I really should go over there and like save my girl. Like she needs my help right now. As he did with the finger, as he, we change what the danger is one little bit, and he's reluctant to step in and be like a real uh traditional upstanding man of the house, right?
Well, what's interesting about the finger injury is that is, I think, more triggering something in him. This cut that this woman has that
Uh-huh.
is
And like the
animating a
blood
memory
and
of what
all
he
that.
did to
Yeah. It
his
gets back
wife.
to the thing of like he doesn't trust himself. He thinks he's gonna do it again. He hasn't gone through this sort of like reconciliation with what he has done and who he is and what his core issue is. He's like, am I like a cold-blooded murderer who at the drop of a hat is just gonna kill some
Yeah,
other
like
woman
if I
again?
get
Is
the
that who
knife
I
in my
am?
hand, am I gonna go crazy? Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting point, though, because this is a 1990s rural Japanese barbershop.
Yeah.
There's knives everywhere, and he always has knives in his hand. And they're two people's throats, and they're two people's heads. And
Uh-huh.
he's
But he's
a
also
barber. He's
yeah.
sharpening knives all the
He
time. It's an interesting interplay between the idea of him being a criminal who murdered someone with a knife,
mhm.
and then being trained, and in some ways maybe restrained by having this sort of temptation of a knife and access to vulnerable people. He's taught to be a barber in prison.
Yeah.
But he's always sort of on the edge of this of like, this is now who I am, and that's this identity of me with a blade is still a part of my life. It's just been tampered down.
Mhm. He's also quite. We see him go out of his way to be peaceful, like when he's with the fisherman who is like, "Hey, you got that eel? We should go eel fishing." I was like, first of all, crazy leap of logic to make. It was like, it's like this guy has a pet here. Is like, oh, you want to like come kill these with me too? I was like, let's do a little bit of forward thinking here, pal. Like when they're out on that boat and he's like pointing the flashlight down. I like the thing where Yamashita like grabs the bucket sort of sneakily and like dumps it out over the other side of the boat while the dude's not looking. Like he does go out of his way to like save creatures from harm like that. And the garbage man's like tries to get to him by like dumping dumping the eel into the reservoir or the dam or whatever. Yeah.
Ah, look at this, an eel.
Which I'm like,
single eel.
is that gonna kill that eel? I don't know. Dumps him into water.
There's a couple really great close shots of frogs in this movie.
Yeah,
True.
and they
Interesting
make a
frog
great
noises
noise
as well.
too.
Yeah,
Dude,
yeah.
You know I love a good frog croak.
Yeah.
I think that this, to make a serious point out of this, I think that the film actually employs its score, speaking of sound, very effectively.
I
You know,
really
there's
like the main
often-
theme. Great main theme in this film.
Yeah, there's something that is quite unsettling about it, and the film is often quiet a lot of the time. The soundscape is often quite naturalistic and quite spare. So when that score comes in, it really calls attention to itself in a way that feels, again, sort of dissonant with how the film is moving otherwise. And to me, it sort of continually recalls these stylistic moves or these violent images that the film is capable of and sort of always has just under the surface.
That's
And
what
I think
I
that that's
was
what
like.
makes it a good watch.
Yes, exactly. What makes this film such a good watch is the knowledge that it could go crazy mode at a drop of a hat. That we are set up at the beginning because of this murder. That when it's time to hold nothing back and to let the film be as gruesome and as nasty and as you making me want to close my eyes as possible, it will do it. It will do it. And so then it can kind of tease. It can kind of be like, I'm gonna go crazy here. And then it doesn't do it. And you're like, oh, thank God.
There's even the really great, I think, just in terms of the writing of this scene, Yamashita is fishing for bait to feed to his eel, and a policeman arrives.
Yeah.
And asks what's in the bucket, and he gets extremely nervous.
Well, and he gets to the programmatic stance. He's holding it. He's like the deference to authority ingrained in him through the prison. This horrible time he had in prison. We must assume it couldn't have been good to be in prison.
I think it was good and normal, actually. I'm gonna do the place Japan thing for prison Japan.
Rehabilitation in America. Rehabilitation.
They got
in
pawns.
Japan.
We know they got pawns, so it can't be that bad.
But in that scene after, I think my impulse as a viewer is, oh, he is just so concerned about this parole breaking. Maybe he's supposed to be at the barbershop. Who knows exactly? But it ends up being an okay interaction. But then that's when Keiko's body is discovered. But the way that that's framed is that he pushes some grasses out of the way, and we just see the ankles and feet of this woman splayed in the grass. And so I'm thinking, is this guy actually a serial killer?
Yeah.
Did he just killed it?
Yeah.
Was he stressed out about the patrolman because he's like, oh fuck, I just murdered a woman and she's lying over there? The answer is no, but I think that the film is good at keeping you off balance like that.
Sure.
Sure. Just to return,
especially up to that point, he is a little unhinged because up to that point, the only thing we've really seen him do is like go along marching with like two different crowds of people and then talk to an eel as he's like pumping water through an old barber shop or whatever. He's like, this guy is not doing the hottest right now.
No. A quick point about the score, just to go back to that quickly. In that I like how it operates in these two modes. It's got this very orchestral mode that is kind of not quite, is a little more understated and is very much in support of the pastoral vibe of the whole movie. It's just got this kind of Edvard Grieg morning mood sound to it. And then there's the main theme of the film, which is played on the synths, that has a more sinister and tense atmosphere to it, and to play that back and forth, accompanying with our action and especially the visuals. I just really, really love how this movie looks, but like not as a result of how it's shot, but like where it's set instead. It's very much to me like Place Japan, because these green hills and this nice river, and yet it's not actually all that far from anything. There's like activity and wires and buildings and smokestacks in the background, and like I just am fascinated by the setting of this movie, to be honest. I found that to be, anytime I was like less than interested in what was happening plot or character wise, I could just be like, what's going on in the background? I'm interested in that.
I think also that that setting element is because it's like this weird rural in between place.
Exactly.
It's not actually like
It's not
we
like
don't see
actually
a small town
rural.
as I mentioned.
There's no farms. There's no
Yeah,
fields.
Yeah.
They can get certain places really easily. We see not too far away is the
shrine.
shrine
Mhm.
where his patrol officer lives, or parole guy. But that's in like more of a wooded area, and that seems to be a pretty nice like estate of some kind. But he's like on like this
This
like
jetty.
ostensibly sandbar. he's on like just a line of dirt.
I mean,
Just
if
in the
I
middle
were
of two
given
bodies of water.
if I were given 3.8 million yen and then this place, I too would fix it up and run a nice barber shop. It looks idyllic. It looks amazing.
And
I
let your weird neighbor
take me
put
fishing.
a Star of David in the
Yeah, what
The
the-
crop
I saw
circles,
that, I
bro.
was like, what the
I wrote
fuck?
I wrote a little note on that too. Yes, the Star of David attracting the aliens.
What
Yamamura,
the fuck?
Imamura, what are you up to here?
really weird.
Oh man, that's odd. Shout out Imamura. Lots of great fight. Like just like moving the camera around to space and watching two guys scuffle. Also,
Dude,
credit to all
long
credit to all
take.
the long
That's a
takes.
long take.
Not only that barbershop brawl, but like I guess it is in the barbershop as well. But when it's him and the
Yeah.
garbage man, like that's another long
Dude,
brawl.
that's
Like
a long take.
like starts inside and then goes outside and then like comes back towards the plate glass and everything.
Puts
It's
his
like,
face up against the window.
Shout out
It's
to these
great.
guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
great choreography.
it's very well directed and performed by these actors who also had to do their own stunts.
The film is also very good at making you afraid for when the eel is going to get injured because
Oh,
you
yeah.
know that
Oh,
it's
yeah.
going to come. You know that the tank is going to get smashed, and it does eventually.
I love how
But
it like
even-
gets bumped. It gets bumped so deliciously a couple times where it just like it shakes, it moves up and down. You see the water, and then they add in the sound effect of like the water splashing, and you're like, "Oh, it's coming! Oh, this Chekhov gun is about a fire."
Koji Yakusho got to handle that eel a whole lot. He's got to keep picking up that eel off the ground like a number of times.
Sounds pretty nasty.
That's why he's a real pro.
Pretty
That's why he's
much
a real
is.
pro. Also, I think I said this at the end of the Fahrenheit 9/11 episode when we rolled this one, but I mean 97. What a fucking great. He's in the Palme d'Or winning film, and he's also the star of fucking Cure, one of the best movies ever made. 97. Koji Yakusho, one of the best.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Should I score?
Yeah, is it about time to give this
Sure.
one a score? I've been thinking
can do
about. I've kind of gone up and down in my head today about what I was going
Sure.
to give this one, and so I think.
You want me to read out the Palme details here? Rick?
Sure. Hit it before we
Okay,
hit the
okay.
score.
Yeah, so we have talked about the 1997 Cannes Film Festival previously, over a year ago, I would say. Does anyone want to take a stab at what year or what film we've already talked about from this? It's not from any director who has won numerous times or anything like that, but I remember this being a good film. I'm not
Hats
sure why I
or
had you guys.
Torment?
No, that's what.
Those are way older.
Oh, okay.
We previously talked about
97.
Abash Kiarostami's Taste of Cherry.
Oh, that's right.
was
You
the
actually did tell
97.
us this a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
I really
so
like
with-
Taste of Cherry too. That was a great film.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. Okay, I'll read out the Palme details again because it's been a while.
Mhm.
So the jury president this year was French actress Isabelle Adjani. Shout out Isabelle Adjani, thank you for your fine work in the realm of film. But also notable members of the Cannes jury that voted both of these films to win the Palme d'Or included American director Tim Burton. Ever heard of him? American actress Mia Sorvino. Gong Li, representing China, and then a friend of the show, actually not yet, because we haven't covered his movie that won the Palme d'Or, Mike Lee was also on the jury this year.
Interesting.
Of the 18 other films that were in competition that did not split the Palme d'Or, as The Eel and Taste of Cherry did, notable submissions or films in competition were Michelle Haneke's Funny Games, Wong Kar-wai's Happy Together, and L.A. Confidential by Curtis Hanson. Great films all.
Yeah. I kind of get why they picked this one, to be honest. I kind of see the vision on why this film won Palme d'Or.
Sure.
It's oddball. It's got some shocking elements, and it's kind of a sweetheart movie when you get down to the end of it.
Okie dokie. Shall we do it, gentlemen?
Okay, let's do
We
it.
shall do it.
3, 2, 1. Alrighty,
Ding, ding, ding.
we've got an average. The average is
Oh, that's one of the numbers.
it is one of the numbers.
It's not
7.9 is a good. We got to break a few
hey.
ties here. We're gonna. This
Yeah.
is an interesting one. Before I go to the point breakdown. 7.9, the lowest scoring or ranked 7.9 film is actually the other Shohei Imamura movie. The Ballad of Narayama has a 7.9 at spot number 27 on the list. Pele the Conqueror has a 7.9. Also, remember that was that like a Danish Swedish movie about child abuse. And
Immigration.
then Rosetta was
perspectives on that movie was
7.9. Also is the top one. Rosetta being a French movie, if I remember. This is the one. I actually remember Pele and Narayama more than Rosetta.
Rosetta is the one about the young girl who's like in poverty and she's trying to get, she has different jobs and she steals the job from her friend and everything. She's trying to work
it's like
her way
Belgian,
out of
right?
poverty.
This is a Dardenne Brothers movie.
This is a classic Dardennes, yes.
Gotcha. Okay. So the point breakdown on the eel, I gave it a 7.3. Abram gave it a 7.9. Tanner gave it an 8 flat, and Tucker gave it an 8.4. 7.9 is the average of all of those numbers. So Abram was spot on. What are we going to decide? This one versus Ballad of Narayama. We think this one goes above Ballad of Narayama? Yes? Or do you think no, it goes below Ballad of Narayama?
Prefer Ballad of Narayama.
Tanner says Narayama above.
Below.
Or you say
no? Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Okay. And then Abram here says the eel above. Tucker, what do you believe in your heart of hearts?
The eel at the top of all.
The eel at the top of all of them. You say.
Yeah. Just
he's hitting all three of his votes. I see.
I don't know. I think I kind of want to put Narayama above the eel.
Okay. Well, just so we can get this out, Tucker, since he already voted. Abram, would you go eel above Pele the Conqueror as well?
Yes.
Okay. Simo?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I would, and Tucker would. So we find ourselves at a bit of an impasse.
So we need Abby to have seen.
Yes, we need some tiebreakers here. Let's see, who do we know that has seen both of these?
And if Abby's in her cinephile arc, maybe she was inspired by the eel to go watch Narayama. If so, maybe she likes Narayama more, then that solves that problem. But if she likes the eel
Abby
more, then
has seen both films. We could also send a quick Discord to Steven. He's seen both, so we have some people who could break this tie. Yeah. Aside from our beautiful viewers on YouTube, our anonymous viewers on YouTube who we don't know personally.
But we love like our family.
So true.
Should we kick the can? Shall we abdicate? Should we?
Yeah. So are we is the vote just to place it above Narayama, and then that's all the higher it would go, or what would happen if people do vote it above Narayama?
Then we need somebody who can litigate the tie between.
Well, no, because there's 3 votes for above Pele the Conqueror.
No, there's 2.
I would put it above.
I say below.
Oh,
But Tanner said above.
Tucker said above.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
how about this? So it's either gonna go below Battle of Narayama or above Pele the Conqueror.
Crazy.
Would
you?
We have
Rosetta.
to do then. Yeah, that's for Rosetta.
I would go below Rosetta.
I would as well.
Above.
My score for Rosetta is way lower than my score for any of the other ones that we're talking about here. And
shit. Now
so
what?
I'm gonna pull a I'm gonna abstain entirely and just be like, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't remember
votes
for Rosetta very well.
That's two votes for putting it below Rosetta, right, Abram? That's what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it can only go then above Pele the Conqueror and Narayama, or below both of those.
Below both of those.
That is the vote. The vote that we are putting to the crowd, to be clear, is better or worse than the Ballad of Narayama. 2 Shohei Imamura movies. Which one do you prefer?
Which one do you prefer?
Yeah, there we go.
That's
Simple
fine.
as.
Simple.
Sorry we
crystal.
overcomplicated that, folks, but it's what needs to be done for the bookkeeping of the show.
It's what happens when you deal with the big giant list like this.
Yes, it is.
There, I would say we have it, but we don't really have it. We need your input dearly, dear audience.
It's
viewer.
almost there.
It's close. We're 90% of the way. Yeah.
Let's move on before we overcomplicate it anymore.
Yes, let's move on. I think there's only one thing left to do on this episode, right?
Certainly. Okay.
Warm up those pipes, Danner. Give us a good song here. You ready to go? You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Wheel, what's your deal? Give us a movie that makes us squeal. Is it on digital or is it on real? Wheel, what's your deal?
And the Wheels deal is the number 21. So what film
21
would that be?
Ooh, okay, gentlemen. This is not the white whale that we agreed upon, but it's a white whale for me personally. This is a biggie that we got on the list, I would say. Quite a famous film.
Biggie, hometown hero of mine, man. He's a Bed-Stuy fella.
You cannot claim it as your hometown. It's
all of it is where I hang my head. It's where I hang my head.
Your head?
My head. I lay my head. I hang my hat.
Hopefully not hang your head.
No, I'm not trying to get up to anything like that.
Sorry, I just got thrown for a fucking loop here for a second. So I was gonna read off the cast list as I usually do, sort of working from like 3 or 4 to the first build. The fourth build person in this film is named Leland Palmer, which is fucking nuts. Also because Tucker invoked Twin Peaks earlier in this episode. That's fucking crazy. Anyway. The Leland Palmer is in this film. Anne Reinking, Jessica Lange, Roy Scheider. With some of those names, I'm sure people have guessed it already. But from 1979, we're talking about the Bob Fosse film, All That Jazz.
All That
Ooh.
Jazz.
This is one that I've abstained from watching because I knew that it was going to come up on the program.
Yes,
exactly.
I got a Criterion copy burning a hole in my pocket downstairs on the shelf.
I think I do.
Yeah, it is. Of course, number 107.
Maybe that was yours,
yeah,
and I just saw it for like 5 years.
Yeah, it is number 117 on the Letterboxd Top 250 as well. So we got ourselves a hotly anticipated one here.
Yes,
get those jazz hands ready, gentlemen.
You know, I've got them. I got them in spades. I got them ready to go. I'll pull them out when we need to. So that's exciting. Oh man, great.
Timo, I'm giving you an assignment. Maybe we should do this off camera, but I'm going to spoil it now. Can you open the next episode with it's showtime? It's a thing for the movie. Thing I know from the movie.
We'll see. We'll see if I remember.
If you can preferably have some sort of rolled tobacco or other material in your mouth, that'd be preferable as well.
Landlords love me.
Pulling the Roy. You could do it. You could if
Eels fear me.
You need to clean up the long hair a little bit, Timo. But with the facial hair, you could do a Roy Scheider in All That Jazz look. Get yourself a little bowling shirt or something like that.
Might be worthwhile. It might be worthwhile.
Yeah.
You dressed up as Leo from One Battle, and I'll do Roy from
Tucker
All
and
That
I did.
Jazz.
I have to give him the credit.
Tucker also
Tucker and I did.
Okay. Well, cool. I'm looking forward to talking about that one. I'm excited to hear what you guys have to think. I'm excited to hear what the audience thinks about the film The Eel, and help us to settle our small dispute here. And we'll be
Battle of the Imamura film.
the Imamura octagon match of the week. Yeah, we're back, baby. We're gonna keep on doing Palme d'Or winners for the foreseeable future until the Oscars roll back around. And unfortunately, blink and we'll be there.
We're recording this on the day that the current Cannes Film Festival kicks off. By the way,
and boy, howdy, have I been reading lots of drama about Cannes this year. I think.
Well, yes, some AI talk going on that is less than ideal.
And the marketplace for films is portending terrible things for the film industry writ large, and that's great news. So we'll just keep on reviewing the movies that they select, and
so let's talk about the old ones. We'll talk
about the old times, the good times. We'll keep our head in the sand, and we'll keep on being ourselves. I got to get out of here, or else I'm going to keep talking for hours. So next time, All That Jazz. Can't wait for it. Write your thoughts in the comments below. You know what I say. Stay cool. Keep warm. Peace.